Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1033B, and today's date is July 27th, 2016, and the title of the episode is U.S. Preparing to Keep the Middle East Secure by Keeping the Puppet Government in Power. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. I just uploaded an interview with Greg Manarino. He is on the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel, so you can go right over there, play the video there, or you can go to the x22report.com site. You just scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side, you'll see the video there, and you can play it, or you can go to newssentinel.com. Same thing, scroll down a little bit, look over to the right-hand side, and you can play the video there. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, as we know, our rights are being violated every single day, nonstop. And the New England Center for Investigation Reporting, the NECIR, well, it just came out with a report on Wednesday that it obtained documents indicating that Boston police were using the spying devices without obtaining any warrants whatsoever. In 11 instances, they used these stingray cell site simulators, contradicting the commissioner's claims that officers generally obtain permission from a judge to use the device. So what we're seeing right now is they don't care about our rights. They don't care if they violate them. And every single person needs to go ahead and say, you know something? You are not going to violate my right. You're not going to violate my First Amendment, my Second Amendment, my Fourth Amendment. Actually, all of them. There's one way you can stop them from tracking you, from listening in on your conversation. You can use encryption. You can use an encrypted email service. You can get Block It Pocket. That's blockitpocket.com. They have these sleeves. They can slip your cell phone, your iPad. They even have them for your credit card to block the signal from the new chips that are in the credit cards. They're intertwined with silver, copper, and other metals to block the signal. But whatever you do, we need to continually speak out. We need to continually protect our private information. You put your private documents in a safe or in a safe location. You lock your house, you lock your car. You don't have a government official riding around with you, because this is what it's like when they use these devices. It's like they're in the back seat of your car and they're going whatever you're going. They're listening to whatever you do. They're tracking whatever you do. And to show the government you don't want this, everyone needs to take some type of action to show them you cannot violate our rights. Because if we just let them do it, guess what? They're going to say, well, you don't care about your rights. You're not defending them. Until we defend them, they're just words on a piece of paper. Now, the EU is out there, and it looks like they're using a form of blackmail on Britain. And they're saying that Britain may face a surge in migration ahead of the country's withdrawal from the European Union, unless the government mandates a cutoff date. The Home Affairs Committee predicts uncertainty over Britain's looming exit from the EU will trigger a last-minute increase in EU citizens coming to the UK. And this is going to result in delays, backlogs in the immigration system. Now, the UK is expected to institute a host of new freedom of movement restrictions following last month's vote to leave the economic bloc. But right now, they have yet to outline any of the details of this plan. And again, this referendum, it's just an advisory referendum. They actually haven't taken the next steps yet. But it looks like up until the point they do, there's going to be a lot of pressure on the UK to stay, and there's going to be a lot of propaganda forcing them to stay in the EU. Now, Catalonia, their parliament have approved independence path where they're going to say, we want to break apart from Spain. And we're seeing they're going down this track right now that they want independence. So we're going to have to watch that situation very carefully. We understand out in Germany, there were two different false flag events, one in France also. We're going to see this increase as time goes on. And we knew part of the agenda here was for Germany to bring in more police, military troops, and have them guard different areas. So right now, Germany, they will boost police presence at airports, train stations, and carry out stop and search operations close to border areas. Now, residents are told to brace themselves for more act of terrorism, which means more draconian laws, which means more violations of the people's rights. And we're seeing this happen in a lot of the European countries, especially here in the United States, Australia, Canada, and they're going to continually do this because they understand what's coming here. A complete and total collapse of the system where they need to have everyone in fear that it was done from the outside. And while they're doing this, they're hoping they can change a lot of the laws to control the people. Now, out in Ukraine, we see Ukraine's finance minister says there's no reason the country needs to repay the $3 billion debt to Russia. They're saying that it was a political credit which we were forced to take. And right now, we shouldn't have to repay it. Of course, Ukraine is trying to get out of this. It's funny, when the central bankers look at other debt from other countries that are not part of their private West central bank system, they say, well, we don't have to pay it. But if a country who's part of the private Western central bank system doesn't want to pay the debt, they say, no, that's not possible. So it's very interesting the way they look at things. Ukraine right now is receiving 72 surveillance drones to Ukraine. The U.S. is supplying these. What are they going to be used for? They're going to transmit live video images, location data to ground control stations. So these systems, which are the 24 RQ-11B Raven unmanned aircraft, they have arrived July 27th, and these systems can provide day or night aerial intelligence. Of course, what are they going to use them for? To track and monitor the troops in the southeast when they start the next offensive. This is what this is all for. Now, Erdogan is trying to introduce the death penalty. He's saying that the people want the death penalty, and he slams the EU for inaction. And he wants to do what the people want. Now, do the people really want the death penalty? Are they really calling for this? Well, we know that Erdogan, he lies quite a bit. Now, very interestingly, we know that the U.S., NATO, they were behind the coup. Now, the question is, was Erdogan with them? Or was the U.S. and NATO trying to get rid of him? Because we see the individuals, the members of the NATO's Rapid Deployable Corps, they were part of this operation, which shows that the United States had something to do with this, even though Obama, John Kerry, all came out and said, no, we had nothing to do with this coup. So, does Erdogan really want Gulen? Or is he using this to justify moving away from the U.S.? So, we've seen some indicators showing that maybe Turkey and Russia are becoming closer. We know that Erdogan is going to meet with Putin, and at that point, we'll see if the Turkish Stream pipeline is back on. We'll see if things start moving towards Russia. But still, when we look at this, you have to wonder what is going on here, because we see the entire system falling apart. Russia and Syria are removing the Islamic State, and we know that Turkey supported them. We know the U.S. and the coalition forces, this is their proxy army. That's along with Turkey. And right now, they are losing ground in both Syria and Iraq. Now, it seems that they're doing some type of cleanup operation because they know there is no hope for the Islamic State. Because we see already the United States is claiming that they have collected 10,000 items from the Islamic State. It's all intel. They're sifting through it. Their thumb drives, data files. But the question is, was this all done to start the cleanup of the Islamic State? Is this what Erdogan is doing in his country? Cleaning up this whole entire operation, because we know that he was part of smuggling the oil from Syria into Turkey. He housed the Islamic State. He funded the Islamic State along with the United States. And at this point, we see that Erdogan is getting ready to change the constitution in his country. So what is going on here? Was Erdogan really part of this coup, or was the United States trying to get rid of Erdogan, or were they working together? Because when you look at this, Erdogan at the time, he was floundering, he was at his weakest point, his political life barely hanging by a thread. He was on the outs with the US and EU powers because he was blackmailing the EU. And we can see right now that what was happening in Syria, that was completely falling apart. And now, when you look at Erdogan, he's back in the driver's seat. He has total control. He has more power than before. He just moved up a notch, maybe two. So when we look at this, we understand from the United States and NATO's point of view where they're coming from. We see the point of view of Erdogan, and we understand that their entire operation was falling apart. And we know the goal is still the same. After all this time, it's hard to believe that Erdogan will all of a sudden say, you know what, I'm going to change my mind. I don't want Assad out of power. Because he's been doing this for quite a while. And we know that he lies quite a bit. We're waiting for more indicators from Russia. We're waiting for more indicators from the United States. Because when you really think about it, if Erdogan truly believes that the US and NATO are part of this, why hasn't he removed the diplomats, removed the individuals from the Incirlik air base? That has not happened yet. Russia and Iran, yes, there have been talks, but nothing has gone any further at this point. So we're still watching for certain indicators. And we're seeing that, yes, US and NATO, they were definitely part of this. But we're still waiting to see what this is going to be used for. And that most likely will be coming up very, very soon. Now we see the Pentagon is out there still talking about the deal with Russia, about joining forces. And we understand that John Kerry came out and said something's going to be nailed down by August. What that's going to be, we don't know, because there are preconditions. Assad must go. They don't want Syria flying their jets around. They just want Russia and the United States. It looks like the United States doesn't care about the Islamic State. They're just moving them to different locations. We know they airlifted them out to go to Libya, to go to Lebanon. And we can see right now, they know the Islamic State is done. And that's why Ashton Carter was out there. And we see that he was out there telling the troops that the U.S. needs to keep the Middle East secure after the Islamic State is removed from all the countries. So what that tells us is that they're going to go back into the Middle Eastern countries and keep the puppet governments in control. Because this was their plan from the beginning, since 2001, to go into Sudan, which we're having a problem with, once again, Yemen, Libya, Lebanon, Iraq, of course, Syria, then Iran. Now, does that mean they're just going to give up on Assad? No, they know this is impossible. They need to continually prop up the system. They need to spread the debt. They need more natural resources on the dollar. So are they going to stop at this point? No. We're just waiting for their next action. And we can see right now that all of those coalition forces in Europe, where Carter ran around and he said, listen, we need your troops, we need your forces, we need your military assets. Well, it looks like they're setting up an international coalition stabilization force, which will maintain control of the Middle East. And he came out and said that they have plans. They're going to accelerate what they're doing against the Islamic State. Now, we know they're not really fighting the Islamic State. What he's really saying, they're going to accelerate the campaign against Assad. But he's not ready to release what they're going to do as of yet because of operational security concerns. So this tells us something is about to happen here. And we know that the U.S. is stuck here. And this is why they're going to lash out. And the other thing that we know is that the U.S. needs to keep the Middle Eastern countries like Saudi Arabia, Turkey, of course, Iraq, Libya, Yemen, all of them in line. They need to keep Europe in line, continually moving forward with their agenda. This is why you see terrorism all over the place. This is why you see the scare factor going on. And the U.S. State Department, once again, is warning Saudi Arabia that the Islamic State is going to be hitting Western embassies inside their country. Now, we know the Islamic State is controlled by Saudi Arabia. They pay them, they fund them, they train them. So we know this is propaganda. We know the U.S. is going to try to keep them in line. This is what all this is used for right now. Because they need everyone on board for their next event that is coming. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.